The American Civil War began in 1860 when the United States was divided into two. The South decided to secede from the United States and become the Confederate States of America.
What triggered the war was the economic differences between the North and the South. Even though Abraham Lincoln wanted to abolish slavery for good, it was based more on the economic reasons than the moral issue of slavery.
An industrial economy, relying on factories to produce products faster, and the South had an agricultural economy, farming cotton, indigo, and tobacco.
With the manual labor.
Production and work came from the slaves in the South, and in the North, it was mostly machines and paid workers doing all the labor. The Union wanted to abolish slavery and tried to make the South more industrialized. But the South did not take kindly to this, so they decided to secede from the Union.
Although the slaves were not directly the issue in this war, African Americans still played a large role in the American Civil War.
African American slaves were important in the war. For the North, they were soldiers, and in the South, they were slaves.
Throughout the war, they were thought of as inferior soldiers. As time went on, African American soldiers proved themselves on the battlefield. They mainly proved themselves in the battles of Fort Wagner and James Island. Although they suffered many casualties, they pushed on and proved themselves. One of the most famous African American regiments was the 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry, led by Colonel Robert Shaw. This was one of the first to take part in the Union's war effort. This particular regiment's first bit of fighting came at James Island, South Carolina, where they stopped an advancing Confederate assault but lost 42 men in the process. And to further their reputation, on July 18th, 1863, the 54th assaulted Fort Wagner in North Carolina. This is where they suffered a lot of their losses. Colonel Robert Shaw was killed, along with 116 of his troops, and another 156 were wounded or captured. This was a huge loss, but the fact that they pushed on and persevered throughout the course of the war showed that these men were as good as anyone.
One of the most known militant figures in the Civil War was Ulysses S. Grant. He was most famous for his victory in the Battle of Gettysburg. Despite the fact that Ulysses S. Grant was only a general-in-chief for 1 year of the war, he was seen as a great and influential leader, and he was credited with the ending of the war. Another thing that Grant was known for was the creation of Scott's Great Snake, which was basically a plan to completely cut off all of the Confederates' imports and exports so that they had no supplies to stand with. Scott's Great Snake involved using the Union's navy to surround the Confederacy by the sea so that no trading ships could enter Confederate territory and trade. In the conclusion of the war, the Confederacy surrendered and became part of the Union once more. In turn, slavery was abolished from the United States of America, and the South changed their economic system to the North.